What does effective facilitation look like, and how do you know? Once you're kind of into the process and you're trying to facilitate the organization and the alignment, how do you know that's effective and how do you manage through that?
Okay, so one of the things that I think is really important for effective facilitation is everybody is clear on the purpose. We could be talking about the purpose for a discussion. It could be a live face-to-face discussion. It could be a Zoom meeting, but everybody needs to be clear on what they're trying to accomplish. If your facilitation is effective, then the people who are participating will note that their concerns have been heard and they're reflective in the data and planning for change. And that requires that the facilitators do a number of things. First, they need to create an inclusive environment. That means including people who are against the change, because sometimes they have the most valuable insights, the most valuable criticisms that need to be accounted for in making this change happen. Another thing the facilitator needs to do is ask good questions. If you're simply asking yes or no questions, you're not getting very good information, very good in-depth information about the nature of the problem or the nature of the ideas that people suggest. A facilitator needs to observe what's going on with the people that they're interacting with. They need to listen deeply and impartially. And what I mean by impartially is you really can't participate and facilitate at the same time. If you need to participate, you need to take a step backward and be really clear that, okay, I'm going to put my participant hat on here and make a comment. But generally, you're better off just letting the people on your team do the participation. Sometimes a facilitator needs to cut into the conversation. For instance, if somebody's hogging the floor. This is particularly an issue when you have higher rank people in the room with you. For instance, if you're in a community, it might be the mayor. Or if you are in an organization, it might be the supervisor or upper management. It really takes some guts to speak out in front of the upper management. And if they're hogging the floor, that becomes really difficult for other people to participate. Other things you might need to do is to encourage active participation and engagement. If somebody's not participating, you need to invite them to do so. And I found that when I have a mixed culture groups of people, there are some people who tend to talk to think. Other people think to talk. And I found that if people aren't participating and you notice that it's all of the people from, say, South Korea, well, then you might provide other ways to help them participate. Like in a live face-to-face meeting, you can hand out note cards and say, we're going to take a break in about 5 minutes. So before you go, I want everybody to write down a question that hasn't been answered or suggest an idea that nobody suggested. So the way you know whether or not it's been successful is to do some data collection. Do a little evaluation and find out whether or not people feel like their concerns have been heard. Even if the ideas are outside the course of the meeting, outside the proposals or the proposed goals of the meeting, you can write it on a parking lot. And by a parking lot, I mean, a sheet of paper or even something in the electronic conferencing system.
Very interesting. And so really to summarize, Jeannie, and tell me if I get this right for our listeners, the first point is to create an inclusive environment. And I like what you said about including people that may be against the change. I think sometimes they can be a significant change agent, right? I mean, if there's a reason they're against the change, and being able to really understand the root of that resistance can be a helpful change agent.
Exactly.
And,
yes.
And then the other point, ask good questions. And I think that you made a great point. I think that sometimes that's often can be a bit of an art, right? Is asking good questions. How do you ask good questions? How do you ask open-ended questions? And observe what is going on, listen deeply and impartially. I think sometimes that organizational leaders, that's a skill that can be developed and it's very effective. Active participation, encourage participation and invite them to do so. And I like what you mentioned there, because I think that when you invite them to do so. And then you also encourage, one of your points was by doing so, you encourage open thinking and creativity, which I think is a very important change agent. And then you, through various data collections, and obviously one of those mechanisms can be effective surveys, something as simple as that, or like you said, a parking lot. I think just being able to take what you can and make it a bit objective and create metrics or measuring points is a very, very helpful tool.